right, cool. Everyone, welcome back to the Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Seats Comic Symposium. This week we have a rousing conversation about self-publishing and getting your books, taking them from that piece of paper on your desk, taking them from your notebook, and getting them all the way printed and out to your peeps. So that's what we're going to focus on today. We've got two amazing guests. Kevin Delgado is balling way too hard for me to even pay attention.
I was just like, there he is.
Shit. Okay. Center myself. I'm back. All right. We got two amazing guests here that are going to be amazing. So we're going to start off with plugs like we all do. Just want to send a shout out for me. Don't get too close to my fanzine, the world's only zine about Ween. The band Ween is almost out. I got my proofs in. They're looking great. You can get yours at theweenzine.com. Only $10. Out very soon. That's me. What about you, Craig?
Just hammering away on the Liefeld stuff with Mr. David Browers, who I love, who I hope is showing up. And a project with Rocco and some of the other guys. Other than that, waiting to get back to work. I wanted to say happy anniversary to Ray, who couldn't be here, and his lovely wife. It's my anniversary too. My wife is actually letting me do this, which is cool. But yeah, happy anniversary to him, and that's about it.
Word. What you got, Rick?
What's up, guys? I'm still plugging away on the second issue of my series, The Power. Still pushing the first issue out, of course. I work on Next Panel Press with Eli and with Craig, and we put out our own individual strips every other weekend onto Webtoon and Facebook. And I'm working on the next prog for Cosmic Cat, so that's a lot of fun. But like Eli said, our main topic today is self-publishing. And having just published my first issue, there's so much stuff that I still want to learn. There's so much I can learn. And like when I'm working on issue 2 now, like I'm taking a lot of that stuff from the first one with me. And there's a lot of people out there. The guest we're about to bring on in particular, he's someone I really look up to a lot. And he's been doing it for a long time. And he's one person that I really would like to glean some information out of. Because, we're only one person, if we're going to do it all by ourselves, like we need to have as much information as possible. Like me and Jason Lapidus had a conversation about this before, where it's like, when you're working on your comic by yourself, like you have to know storytelling, you have to know letterface, you have to know like design and layout, and also like there's just multiple jobs. So it's like each of us, like even just being in the comics community, like everyone is an expert in their own little field of whatever it is that they love. And like I just want to learn as much as I can, and I think like this next person really has a lot to say about that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Cool. Let's see. Do you want to go ahead and I guess he's not here yet. He will be here very soon. But you want to go ahead and start with your intro, Craig? I will message him right now.
Yeah, for sure. I can drag it out a little bit. I'm sure he loves hearing me talk about him. So our next guest, he's been doing this a long time, and I've heard things like the best artist you don't know, the best cartoonist that no one's heard of. He's hardworking. He's extremely fast. He has a book out that I think is just as important as any of the go-to how to make comic books, whether it's an Eisner book or a McLeod book. This book in itself talks about like not giving up and just keep going, and it does so in a humorous, funny way. His books include Gone, Drawn from Memory, Abandoned Ship, Zero Adventure, which I think I plugged on the back of there. Punching the Clock, Manly Days, Manly Fight, and the book that I was speaking of that was like, it's so like I go to it all the time, because it's just about like head down, do your work, and keep going no matter what. It's the book Fail, and if you guys here don't have it, you need to pick it up because it's pretty wild, and it's a great book. So hopefully he's here.
Is it paperback or is it digital?
I think he might have it digital. I have a paperback. He sent me last year or the year before. He sent me a package of stuff, and it was in it. But it is probably, to me, it's one of my favorite books that I've come across in the Kayfabe group, because it offers so much, and it has that whole, hey, I'm just gonna keep going, and yeah. So he is. I see it. So it's Jeff Manley, everybody. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for joining us.
What's up, dude?
Hello.
Oh. Hey, dude.
I don't know what's going on, so I don't even know if you can see me. Can you see me? Is my camera on?
No, we can't see you yet.
What?
I sent you an ask to start video request.
Oh, okay.
See if that works.
Okay.
He was also in.
I'm such a professional.
There it is.
He was also in Grand Disaster, that Gru story with the big dick, which I don't know if it was edited or
You mean a
not.
banana? It was a banana.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been edited. It should have been left alone. But yeah,
Well,
welcome.
hey, kids gotta read comics too, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem. We're going to talk about like self-publishing, because you're the king of self-publishing around here.
I feel like I am. I mean,
Yeah.
I've lost count of how many books that I've made. It's like 25-ish. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I read like from.
And I'm not even talking like
10.
floppies either. I'm talking like books.
Yeah. That's what I said. Like, you're one of the fastest working people I know. Like, you know, I think I read about 10 of your books, and I know there's a little. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know Ray was really rattled that he couldn't make it tonight. He wanted to be.
Damn
here.
it! Where's Ray?
He's celebrating his anniversary with his wife.
So what? Come on, Ray. Well, he can watch this, and he can be.
He might pop in to say hello to you. I know that he was upset, but we got a couple questions from him. But yeah,
that's good.
Self-publishing, you're the king. There's lots of questions, I'm sure. I know that Rick, who's also a huge fan of yours, has a ton of questions for you as well.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm a huge fan of myself, and I have a lot of questions for myself. But that'll be addressed in Wizard issue 2.
Good.
Right,
good.
Eli?
You can never go wrong.
Absolutely right.
It's like,
since you submitted you were like the first submitter, so you were the first article. So
yeah, awesome.
It's like the book, right? Make Mine Manly. So
yeah, that's right.
You know, yeah, I guess anyone that Eli, what have you got to roll with here?
Oh, I was thinking you were gonna start.
Oh, well, whatever. Yeah, the big thing for me is like I was explaining it to everyone about the book Fail and how important it was, and how it's on my my top tier of like go-to of making comics.
Well, thank you.
It just has that constant feel of like, head down, do your thing.
Right.
And I know that would probably leak over into like self-publishing as well. Like, the workload is probably quite heavy.
Yeah, it really comes down to you know, I'm a cartoonist, but you know, my day job is a graphic designer, and so being a graphic designer, like I have this drive to just keep designing. So I create so that I can have more books to design, and it just kind of feeds into each other, and that just, you know, like I'm already I finished book 3, and I'm already designing the next collection, you know, like automatically. Like it's just I'm always, you know, pushing into that next one. So once I drop this one, then it's almost like I forget about it because I'm on to the next one already.
How much time do you think is taking up, like, because you're so fucking quick, like you go, but how much time do you have to spend when you're thinking about publishing? Like, does it take up a good portion of what you're doing?
The problem is like every waking moment I'm thinking about making comics, and so it's like it's hard to judge. Like, you know, I'll be you know, sitting and, you know, working at, you know, making a business card for somebody or some shit like that, and in the back of my mind I'll be thinking, oh, you know, who could I ask to do a pinup for my book or something? You know, it's always there's always like multiple trains of thought going on. And I usually put more trains of thought into my comics. And so then my bosses are always like, your work is shitty. What's going on? It's like, well, I mean, I'm doing the best I can. but also day job isn't important to me, the way comics are. So
yeah, because you're like, you've got, people don't know, but you're a family man. You've got like 5 kids. Like you've got.
I mean, I've got many, many, many kids. I've lost count at this point.
It just amazes me, like how busy like you must be, right? Like.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it comes down to, would I be putting into this work for so little attention / money if I didn't love creating? Because I mean, every book I've ever published myself, I get discouraged that it didn't, hit the way that in my mind it should have. And so it's like a constant battle for, like, oh, I'm not a good salesman, or, I make these like small excuses as to why I'm not, a bigger entity in the comics world, when I look at my work and I think I should be.
Yeah, like it's crazy, because if you look up Jeff Manley, if all you motherfuckers like Google Jeff Manley, and like, you'll see these countless interviews, and they all have the same thing, like, the best cartoonist you don't know, like all these catchphrases about like, trying to like tell people like turn people on. So yeah, I mean, like most of us, well, a couple of us here have been really big supporters. I know Rick has, I have. Oh yeah. Ray has.
I'm pretty sure Ray's a supporter of everybody. Like, I don't know what he does. Is he's like in the mob or something? I don't know. He's just like dollar bills to everybody.
He's great that way. He's always willing to help out. But yeah, it's amazing to me that you haven't caught on. Like when I first started interacting with you a couple of years ago, I was still in school, if you remember, and you had sent me a little sketchbook of yours and stuff, and that's when things kind of started to change for me. Like I was like, hey, like maybe I can lean into this a little bit more. And,
right.
Big inspiration.
Thank you.
I know that it must get tough. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like
it's not all sunshine and roses.
No. And I think that's the biggest part for me too. It's like I've been saying, it's like head down, do your work.
Yeah,
it's someone like something's got to break. You know what I mean? The body of work.
Even at this point, I've been self-publishing my own books since I think 2000 might have been the first fold and staple book I put together, and it wasn't until early 2010 that I discovered Create Space, which then became Kindle Direct Publishing, to get an actual like, oh, this looks like a book now, instead of like the fold and staple mini, zine type books. And in that 20 years, it's always, it's like, there's been years where I sold like 4 books and I went to like 2 different comic shows. It's like, it gets real disheartening if I didn't like think that I was as good as I am. And I know it might sound conceited, but nobody else is out there going, you gotta read Jeff Manley's work, besides maybe, a few of you guys. And that's a whole new ball game for me. Like Cartoonist Kayfabe groups just made me feel like I was part of a community when I've tried to be a part of communities in comics for a long time. And it's just, nobody's ever shown the support that I see from the Ringside seeds. And I think it's, even as I don't interact as much, or do anything, even the offshoot groups, it still gives me a little bit of that feeling, like when you go to a convention and you like see your old friends and you're like, hey, I haven't seen you in a year kind of thing. And I get that like anytime that I go onto the Ringside seeds and stuff. And
yeah, it's like its own ecosystem. So if everyone supports everyone, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
which is how I think it should be looked at. And I think, you know, most of us would like to think that way.
Right.
But yeah, 20 years publishing your own stuff. Like,
yeah.
So what's on the horizon? Because I know Riley's full go. I know of someone that did a pinup for you, and I saw it, and it looks fucking dope.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of them. They look great. Is it catching on? Is it, you know, how far along is it? Are you going back to any old work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, at this point, you know, Riley, a teenage Bigfoot, it has been like the only thing I've ever created where I've had people like, here's a drawing I did of this, of your character, without me like begging somebody. You know, I've had like just random people I don't know on Instagram just, you know, post a photo that they drew, and like, I drew some Riley fan art. I'm just like blown away every time. And just that doesn't get old for me. It's because, you know, I'm a firm believer in, you know, part of the process of being a cartoonist is, you know, you draw other people's characters, and then you know, just as, you know, as a fan. And so I've drawn many characters as a fan, as you can see in books like Make Mine Manly or Fail, where I would, you know, I just like drawing other people's characters. Or like back here is, you know, a whole bunch of characters that I've drawn that were, you know, I made into my table blanket for conventions. And so like with Fail, I have one local convention, and it's called the Cherry Capital Comic-Con, Traverse City, Michigan. And it's one of those where it's like 10-minute drive from my house. And so it's like, I've got to be here. Like, why would you not go to a convention when you live in a town of like 5,000 people or something? So you need, you know, and you have a convention, you're going to go to it. And so every year I liked having my own, a new book to have on the table. And so with Fail, I was working on like a longer book, and it was taking me too long. And I was like, I got to get something done. And I'm like, I have all this art sitting here and all these comics that I started and stopped. And I was like, why don't I package them into a book and just give a slight explanation of like how I failed or how it failed. And even after I, you know, put that book out and I sold like maybe 10 copies at the show, and I was like, whoa, bestseller, you know? And even after I got my first copy back of it, I noticed that, you know, on one section I copied and I pasted the same paragraph onto the next section of stuff, and I never edited it, so it's the same. And I'm like, well, I guess I failed at that too. Perfect for this book, you know? And I just went with it. I didn't even edit it. I was just like, fuck it.
I'm going to stop monopolizing your time, because I'm sure there's lots of guys here that want to talk. I just want to say, please don't fucking stop.
Oh, I won't.
If it's the last thing I get to say, everyone needs to pick up your work, specifically Fail, especially for the creators in the room. Much love, buddy, and thank you very much for doing this. And
on that note, also, if you're buying Fail, just buy Abandoned Ship. It's pretty much my sequel to Fail, so it's a good companion piece, about the same size, and even more work. Yes,
those are on books Amazon. On your Amazon. Oh, those are on
Amazon, on my Amazon page. So,
all right, I posted your manlycomics.bigcartel group page down in the chat.
I saw the little notification pop up. I was like, "Thanks, Eli."
Woo! Sweet, dude. So I'm just curious how like you manage your time, like, because you're obviously creating like nonstop.
Yeah.
So then when do you find time to do like the marketing and the like pushing of this book before you start on your next book? And it's like,
yeah, it's constant, just constant. Like I go to my day job and I sit at a computer and do graphic design, and so I'm constantly like, oh, I could, you know, I got a lull between customers or whatever. I can just make a new business card, and, you know, I'll just like shoot that shit out in between. And then I go to lunch and I crack open my flavored tuna fish pouch, eat that up real quick, and then pull my iPad out and I try to get like at least half of a comic strip done in that 40 minutes of time. And that's like if I go a day where I have to like run an errand on my lunch, I'm just like, damn it, I can't get half this comic strip done.
I mean, your business card is honestly one of the best I've ever seen. I cut it out. It's like an action figure. It's over with my other figures.
When I had that thought, I was like, how has nobody done this yet?
It's genius.
And I wish I had one sitting in front of me, but
I know. Yeah, I got one. I'll show you.
Okay. And we get to see Eli's butt.
See, you cut it out, and it's got the name on it, and it's like the teenage Bigfoot there. Genius.
Yep. Yes. So every business card's an action figure.
It's so smart. What else? What more do you want?
Yeah, I know. I even talked with my girlfriend. I'm like, why don't I do more? Like, why don't I have more characters? And she's like, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And it's like, now I just have to figure out the time to do that. So.
Yes, definitely. All right, Rick, do you got a question, man? Or do we want to open up the floor here?
Definitely.
All right, go for it, dude.
Okay, so when I first came across your work, it was right when I don't know what had happened to your bag, but someone took your shit, man.
Oh yes. I hate thinking
I was
about
so
that.
fucking bummed for you, dude, and I was so happy when you got it back and everything. But it's like you were using the red pencil and you had your folder and everything, or like your notebook with your templates and everything.
Yeah.
And then you moved over to Clip Studio, and it was just like you got even fucking faster.
Oh yeah, no.
But like the thing is, it's like, because I still ink traditionally, because it's like I don't want to lose that human touch, but it's like I'm watching you ink on Clip Studio, and it's like the only thing missing is the red pencil, you know?
Right.
And it's kind of just like, how has that whole switch been for you, you know?
Well, when my bag was stolen out of my car, in my bag I basically had those like Itoya paper holder, like they have the sleeves and you slide the 8.5 by 11s in. I had one of those just full of the 75 pages of complete comic, and I had the next set, because I was at like 100 or so pages of the book I was working on. And so all that was gone. All of my pens and pencils were gone. And I was just sitting in my car crying. I was like, this is the worst thing that's happened to me this year. And that was, months after my now ex-wife kicked me out of the house. So losing my comics that I was working on and put all my passion in made me cry harder than any of that did. And it almost like, I'm glad I hadn't switched to digital then, because the teenagers that broke into my car would have kept my iPad. Yeah. They were just like, oh, paper, whatever. All they took out of my car was like a little one hitter for weed that had nothing in it. Like that's all they took. And like they had to be young kids because they left all my CDs. I mean, why wouldn't you take my CDs? I'm old, so. But transferring to iPad and using Clip Studio was basically like it. I was afraid to do it. I was afraid because I didn't want my artwork to like get generic or something, or I didn't want it to look computerized. And so I know. I'm very careful about how much smoothing I use. And like, even with, when I'm doing a teenage Bigfoot strip, the border panels are still wobbly and a little uneven because I want to keep it that way. I still hand letter while, on the iPad, just because I don't want it to look like a font. And so I do things that I try to keep it a conscious effort to still give it a hand touch. And not just be complete, like, oh, this was done in Illustrator, you could tell, or something. And I mean, Teenage Bigfoot wouldn't have existed if I didn't buy an iPad, because I was working on that longer story, pen and ink, and I wasn't just going to stop at 100 pages or whatever and then start inking digitally. And so I was just found an idea to goof around with. And I used to used to draw like Chewbacca at conventions, like Chewbacca hang gliding and just like stupid shit that I like to draw like Chewbacca doing. And then I was like, well, Chewbacca is kind of like a werewolf. And then I thought, you know, like, oh, they'd be kind of like do Chewbacca doing things that Teen Wolf would do. And then I'm like, well, Bigfoot's, you know, funny and not copyrighted. I mean, don't get me going on copywriting teenage Bigfoots. There's a lot of history. Yeah, a lot of history there for me. But yeah, so now I'm to the point where, you know, I'm a 45-year-old man. I haven't had an eye exam in like 10 years. And drawing like pen and ink, I'm just like, I need to zoom on this shit. So iPad, I'm just like, whoop, I can draw, I can see. Which I need to get to an eye doctor, but that's a whole different show. That's the Eye Doctor podcast or something. I don't know.
Do you do any traditional at all, or is it just like maybe with like commissions and stuff?
Yeah, traditional is just basically for commissions, or like in you know, for people that don't know, and all of the Teenage Bigfoots, I have a title page, and then when you buy directly from me in Amazon, I do a sketch like right here, and so each Bigfoot, I have a different like title page where I can draw in a different spot. And that's like the only time I'm drawing like by hand, because like even with Teenage Bigfoot, I started just like penciling the ideas on like index cards, and then I would take a photo of it and then put that into my iPad and then ink over the top of that. So I wasn't even like penciling really. I was just taking like rough thumbnails and going over that. And then I'm like, why am I taking this extra step? And then I just started penciling digitally. I would like write down ideas most of the time, or just think about them over and over and over again until it like clicked on how to make the joke work.
For sure. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes. Oh, and thanks for the shout out on the Comix Lounge.
Yeah, dude, I meant it.
I was like,
shit,
that's me. I was like, woo. I rewound it. I took a video. I sent it to my girlfriend. I'm like, listen to this. And then she's like, I couldn't hear shit. And I'm like, damn it, I should turn to the TV up.
Shit. Nice. Thanks, Rick. Yeah. All right. So actually, Manley, Ray could not resist.
Oh, yeah, he can't.
And hanging out.
All right.
So Ray's here. He's got some questions.
And now he's going to be in the doghouse. Like,
oh, man.
No, man, I made it. My family is here in the hotel. We've been busy all day. And I said I could not resist the Manley. The Manley would not let me. Yeah. That would not forgive me.
I'm pretty limited access on the Zoom meetings. Like last summer when we would like just have Zoom hangouts, I would like get anxiety. I would be like, this is too many people. I can't do this.
And so
it's nice one-on-oneing here.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, I just had a question in general. Like, I know that you've had two questions. I know one that you've had, different options you use for publishing, for self-publishing. I kind of was just kind of curious, like, one, I guess, what are two things? Because I'm not self-publishing, but I know a lot of my people that are on the board. I mean, I see them on the Facebook group are like, oh, self-publishing, but they don't seem to like, they're doing digital stuff and they don't know, but they don't ask. So I'm kind of asking for that. But I'm curious, what do you think are like the most important considerations when you're thinking about who's printing your stuff? Or like, is it different stages? Like when you're starting out, one is a better option, but then if you get more traction, another one's a better option. Because I know you've done a few.
No, I've done one.
Really?
I found back 10, 11 years ago, I found Create Space. I had a friend who used it, and basically with Create Space, it was like, oh, we put it on Amazon, we give you an ISBN number and a UPC, and it was pretty cheap per book to where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try this. I tried it and it worked, and I just kept doing it. And to the point where they've changed, they were bought out by Amazon, and now, it's my main goal was I didn't want to have like where there was somebody else's advertisements in it, and a lot of the self-published houses will tack a big ad on the back or whatever. And it was just always, it just seemed like I don't want to advertise somebody else, and what benefit is it for them, for the 5 people that buy my book to see their ad? So it's not even worth me trying to find it. And I mean, it's all a personal choice. I mean, I know a lot of people that are very happy, and I know people that are very happy finding like small publishers that, they don't necessarily have like a book market reach, or, aren't going to list it in Diamond or something, but, they still find like a Source Point Press or something, which is a Michigan company. So that's why I referenced it. But it's not like there's a big marketing team anywhere pushing, your book. So most of the time it just comes down to you push it yourself, and you have to keep pushing.
All right, because I was going to ask you about like the important things to consider, but I think you kind of answered that. I think for you it's just ease of use, simplicity.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, and at this point, it's like all of my books are in. I can go to one page and click and print, myself any book that I need, even though most of them I consider out of print. So.
Okay, cool. All right,
but
cool. That's cool.
Also, they're never really out of print because most of them are on Amazon. So I have to like physically click a button saying take this off of Amazon, which I have done. So if you have those books, then they're going to be a lot more valuable when I get famous.
Yeah, don't take out Fail, because I still have to get that.
Yeah. And you weren't here when I said if you buy Fail, also buy Abandoned Ship, good sister books.
All right, man. How can I say no to you?
Yeah, exactly. I'm so cute.
Well, okay, we'll take it that. All right. Hey,
All right.
Thanks, Jeff, man. Hey,
thank you.
Hey, man. Glad everything's going well.
Oh yes, I'm glad. Thanks for checking in on me all the time, Ray.
Hey, man, that's what friends are for.
Exactly. Thanks.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you, Eli.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Ray. Thanks for stopping by for sure. I'm glad to have you.
Man.
All right. So who else has questions for Manley here? Raise your hands or pop in. I muted you there again, Ray. Who's got some cues here? Okay, Chris got one. There we go. Asking to unmute. Let's see what you got, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, man?
Hi, ChrisAndersonComics.com.
I know. My parents foresaw what I was going to be doing.
So when your last name is Comics.com, what are you going to do? You gotta make comics. My last name is Manley. What am I going to do?
Hey,
I have to be Manley.
With an exclamation point.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
So you have any distribution whatsoever besides just Amazon and like word of mouth?
Oh no. I would even call like Amazon is worse than word of mouth. Like there's like I'll get emails in my personal email saying you should check out this book, and it's my own book, and I'm like, yeah, send that to somebody else, Amazon, not me. Like, I already have this book. I don't need it again. I don't even like think about like I can't even tell you if I've ever even gotten like a check from Amazon for sales. And if it did, it went into an account that I don't have access to anymore. I don't know. I'm really bad with that kind of like money thing, and claiming taxes, and not just like giving money to homeless people when I don't have money either, that kind of stuff. But I make comics, I don't collect money.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was just curious because like there doesn't seem to be, there might be a few, but there doesn't seem to be too many distributions out there for people like us,
No.
Like,
oh no.
There's like Emerald City distributors up in the northwest of the states, and that's like the only other one that I know that we can access as creators.
Yeah, I didn't even know about those. I mean,
yeah, because like these little ones, and get into a shop where you walk in, and even if it's just something back, that you wouldn't notice. Eventually, going in shops are gonna notice and see it and pick up. We just got to be able to get it in these places. So the question is, how the hell do we do that?
Yeah, I know. Like when last February, so I put out my book, You Won't Survive Zero Adventure, and I took like 3 copies to my local comic shop, and I'm sure I could go there tomorrow and all 3 copies would still be there, and it feels like the only way to sell people is to build a relationship with people.
Yeah. So you got every store in the country.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to build a relation. I have to be like friends on Instagram with all these stores.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
build a personal relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that's one thing that's, I think is very important, and it's very hard for most cartoonists, is you gotta, like, if somebody comments on your like Instagram post or something, you reply back. Even I even reply to bots. Like that's how like ingrained it is in me. They'll be like, "Would you like to earn $10,000?" I'll be like, "Yes, right. More. Read my comics too."
I hear you. It's a hustle. It is really like a constant, never ending to try to get out there. And I'm just curious if you knew of any other avenues.
Oh,
because like Strangers Magazine is now becoming like a small distro kind of thing with other people books and
oh yeah, no, I've looked at like Kilgore Books will do like small press distribution and things like that, but it's always like with Kilgore, it's like a more of a fold and staple zine thing.
Yeah,
and it's like when and a lot of distribution means that I have to put a lot of money up front to get a lot of copies and then send them somewhere else. And at this point, like I put a book out, I maybe get myself 25 copies, and then when I sell those, I get another 25 copies. It's not like I'm I don't have like a garage full of pallets of books, to send to distributors and stuff.
Sure. And it sounds like there's a hole in the industry. If anybody wants to start a business.
Yeah, especially somebody whose last name is comics.com or something.
Right. I'm too busy. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, that's the problem is we're making comics, not selling them, I guess.
Right.
I mean, you're probably doing fine. I'm not saying that you don't.
Fine as you can.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking questions and having that cool last name like me.
Thanks, Chris. All right, we got our next question here with a hand up. It's Jason Lapidus.
Oh, yes.
And only. So what's up, Jace? What's going on?
Not much, man. First, thanks Eli and the gang for putting this together. And then secondly, shouts to Chris Anderson for his amazing Max Headroom impression. It was like the quality of the connection just brought me right back to being 13 again watching
I thought I was
network
doing
TV.
I thought I was doing my best Max Knight impression, and then he jumps in with a Max Headroom. I'm like, can't get you with that.
My question for you, Mr. Manley, is about the idea of failing and learning and all that. Yes. When it comes to your most recent book, like we always talk about how much we learn from getting something done. And, if we're not learning from what we produce, then we're going to not get any better as we go along. So with your most recent thing that you have put out, what thing did you apply to it that you had learned in the previous few books that you made? Tough question, I know.
Yeah, it's a tough question. It feels like my last like my last 3 main books were like volumes, and basically one thing that I did was they're adult content, but not it's not porn. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with porn. And so I was like, one time I was just sitting around going, my kids can't read these comics, because they'll probably laugh, but they don't need to know how much of their dad is like a pervy stoner, because most of these books are they call them all right out of here. And so then I decided to quickly, like, I would take comics and I would edit them so that they were now safe for kids. And then I put out this, little like 1970s paperback collection size of that. And so like, I, edit out like butts and like, hold on, my favorite, like this one where Bigfoot hunter is stealing Riley's poop. And so then they're like, dude, in the original is like, is he stealing your shit? And so this one I said, did that guy just steal your pickles? And so it's like, I just had like all these random shit thoughts, so many non sequiturs happened. And, like nobody's going to really buy this that didn't buy like all the other stuff, because it makes zero sense right here. Like you just buy this one book, it makes no sense. But I made it for myself, and so I could hand it to my kids, and my kids were like laughing at it, and they were like super like, think that, like my dad's funny, and I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, lots of people think I'm funny, but
well, then it's a quick follow-up for that. One,
sure.
Do you mind if I call it Pickles from now on? When,
yes,
anyone in my family is okay, because I think that's fantastic. And then the follow-up is, how do you sleep now that you've sold out to sell more books? Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah. You edited your content considering your market to sell more. I mean, you're a sellout, dude.
Yeah, well, here's the thing is I've been saying for probably 20 years, I am waiting to sell out. I'm always waiting to sell out. You give me a call and the price is right, I will sell anything to you. I've been a very poor man my entire adult life. I will take any money for anything. I'm not saying like, but maybe like it's money. Guys got to eat.
Would you eat pickles?
For enough money. I did try to, at a con, I was challenged to eat 2 sticks of butter, and that ended with me violently puking into a trash can outside of a convention center. But I earned like $68 or something. So yeah, I'll try.
Good stuff. Thank you.
There you go.
Yes.
Thanks, Jason. Always a pleasure chatting with you. All right. So, Manley, we got a question here from the comments over on Facebook from the one and only Brian Payne. He says, I'm curious about distribution. Are Manley's books in the Diamond catalog? And if not, how many trips to the post office does he make a week nowadays?
I wish it was more. I'm not like, there's years where I've sold 4 books, and so like when I put out volume 1 of Teenage Bigfoot, I had like 80 pre-orders, and I was like, I've made it. I finally made it. I can quit my day job now. I was unemployed at the time, but I didn't have any job to quit. But then with that like huge success of like selling so many books, then it just like each volume is like buh. So I don't think that on my own I will ever distribute any other way than making my trips to the post office. And I like to tell myself that it's so I can build that fan relationship. I like to throw extra stickers in. I like to sketch in the books. Sometimes, like, if I'm late sending the book out, I'll throw another damn book in there just because I feel so bad. Yeah. And
well, I think that stuff goes a long way to do, like what you said, making a relationship with the buyer to like then, once someone dips their toes into.
Let's see. I've covered mine up, but yeah,
It's like, remember when you made that book? That was awesome.
Let's see, I can't.
Once you, I was checking the specs on the inline for the rotary. That was my Windows startup sound when I was in middle school. I'm just saying, once you dip your toes into the firm, cool waters of Manley, the Manley verse, you'll never not buy again. Which is like,
I'm very upset that more people don't own this book.
It's really
because I did some smash awesome cartooning in this book.
Agreed.
Where even I still, most of this book was drawn like 2 years ago, if not, maybe 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
3. Oh yeah. But there's stuff I look in here. I'm like, holy shit, I'm a good cartoonist. Like there's just stuff in here.
That feels good because a lot of times cartoonists look at stuff even a few months ago and they're like, who drew this piece of shit? But so that's good.
Yeah.
It's good to have confidence like that. Yeah. There's Rick's got his.
Yeah. Confidence level. For the longest time, I was beat down by the system and I had a very like self-deprecating attitude. And I think I kind of like got that. I adopted the run the jewels mentality where you say, you're in luck. I do 2 things. I rap and fuck, that kind of thing. I draw comics, and I love what I do. So, why not tell people, like, I talk about myself the way like a rapper talks about their rapping. And
that's the way to be, man.
Especially when you're really has brought my confidence level up to where I feel like I deserve to be on a show like this with people asking me questions, staring at Eli's adorable face. Yeah, look at that.
Our adorable faces. Come on.
Oh, yeah, everybody is fantastically handsome on this podcast.
Speaking of which, we got another question here from Kevin in the comments here. He says, has Jeff done any pitches / submissions to any larger institutions in order to be published and or adopted to any other media, not including Amazon or Webtoon?
Sure. I've sent probably 30 like submissions to talent agents and never heard anything back. But that was all before like Riley, the Teenage Bigfoot, showed any kind of success. So I was even less successful then. And, talent agents, they want to see like, you have to have thousands of followers on Instagram, or it's like, what's the point? Like, right. They don't want to have to build you up. They want to just help you get through the publishing door.
Right. Once you're over one hurdle, then they'll help.
Yeah.
That hurdle continue.
And I've done, I did like a 9-page pitch with a friend of mine named Kenny Porter, who recently had a Scholastic graphics book come out called Fearless. And, like 6 years ago, we just knew each other from local cons and stuff. And he was like, I'd love to work with you. And I'm like, yeah, write something. I'll do some drawings. And did like 9 pages and he pitched it out to people, but it never went anywhere. It feels like, like your ultimate goal feels like publishing, but I love drawing comics. I love creating this world that I've created. And that to me gives me more joy than, constantly getting rejected by publishers and, I'm protecting myself. I'm sure there's some psychological damage that I have that's keeping me from trying harder when I just try to keep making stuff that makes me laugh. And every time I read Riley, a Teenage Bigfoot, I've reread these damn strips many, many, many times, and I laugh every time. And so that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, man.
But on that note, anybody that ever watches this YouTube video and you're like, hey, I can slip Jeff some money and publish his books and get it to more people. Yes, I'll sell out. Call me the real big fish of comics.
All right, so Doug, you have a question out there? Oh, you there, Doug? Asking to unmute you there.
I have my space goggles on. I don't see far or close with them. So, I guess most of the questions you kind of covered, but as a father, it's tough making that decision on where to put your money and invest in stuff. So, did you find that KDP kind of alleviates the stresses of having to like source yourself out? Like when you told, I think I read when you got ripped off at the con, and like I just thought to myself, the shittiest part about that is that you have to, like, you think, now I got to go spend, even if it's $60 sometimes, you know that stuff costs money, right? Like it's first. So I guess that's kind of is that one of the roots that like really kept you focused on I guess fiscal responsibility, as well as going through like sticking with the Kindle option?
It always comes down to how much money do I want to spend, and I have to think, well, my last book sold this many, and so I have to just get just a little, at least the same amount, if not try to get. It's just a constant balance of trying not to have a big back stock of books that I don't want to try to sell anymore. Mm-hmm. and it's just one of those things. It's trying to think of.
Yeah, that was one, like when I printed my first run, like I've dealt with a local comic dude that I met through Craig's connections. And like the first thing that he said to me was, okay, my friend, like you're going to be excited, but don't go crazy, because I got thousands of my first books sitting around. They're going nowhere. And that was the thing. Like I wasn't super modest, and I printed out, enough for the people that supported me, plus like a few like floaters and stuff. But I'm glad, because even still, like you go $500 out of pocket, like it's all like it's pebbles in the pond, right? Like
when I did this book, it was the first book that I did a pre-order for I set up a big cartel, and it was like, oh, people will pre-order, and then that gives me the money then to print enough plus some more, because if they're paying $10 for the book and it's a $2.80 cost for me to buy the book from Kindle Direct Publishing, that gives me, like, for every book one person buys, I'll print 3 books basically, and so like if I had 50 pre-orders, that's 100 120 books that I print to have that float level.
Very good. I believe in too, like you give the world a gift and hopefully it gives back, right? So I mean, the fact that your passion has driven you for as long and consistently as it has, I think that's a real testament to the fact that, like, it's not about, I don't like it's about a payday, because everybody likes making money. But it's also, I think, like passion level, like you're you're at a point where like kids these days, right? And like the longer that I spend in tattoo industry, and like I'm dipping my feet in the comic book industry and stuff, but like it's, you see kind of where the progress level is getting to, and and you've got something more valuable than any amount of like talent really right now, and that's the fact that like you can see the look on the person's face when that they're going to be potentially, more than likely, a dick to try to deal with, right? So it's good to try to like steer clear of that stuff, so you can maintain positivity and surround yourself with a bunch of.
I'm great at avoiding dicks. I avoid dicks like crazy, like mad crazy, dodging dicks all the time.
Ooh, yeah, for sure.
It's like that hot dog gift that you get.
I get that gift sent to me so many times.
Thanks for setting a good example, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I'll keep doing it too.
For sure.
So what's the important Craig question before we go?
Thanks for setting a good example, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Terror in the Shallow. We're getting more?
It's probably not. It basically, it's the story was like, it's one of those where it's like in my mind rooted in the time that I was making it, and I was a completely different mental state when I was making that, And just going back and looking at it, it's hard. I'm like, I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm not. If you look at my body of work, it's usually comic strips because I've that's what I've loved since before I could read. So sitting with a newspaper was like my way to go. And there's always room for another fail. Like I fail enough that I could dig out a whole bunch of stuff out of a Rubbermaid tote right now and scan it, and it'd be failed 2 or 3. So just answering questions popping up on the bottom.
What did you say? You said there was a sequel already.
That Abandoned Ship, which is all my stories where I, had pages and pages and pages, and then I just got a trap. Like as a creator, you just have idea after idea, and then building this world sometimes gets boring, and you're like jump ship to a different one. And so I had all these half books to the point where I just filled a book full of quarter and half books, and I like the way it looks. So it might not be as self-deprecating as fail is, where it's oh, people just don't like me at shows because I'm not the prettiest guy or something. But I so buy a fail, buy Abandoned Ship, buy any Teenage Bigfoot that you can find, including Now Safe for Kids, by Zero Adventure, which the Bigfoot ones are all in the Big Cartel that's, Eli links down below somewhere. I don't know how the internet works. I'm old.
In the chat and in the Facebook comments as well. Good. We got a couple minutes here before our next guest is going to join us. Manley, I hope you'll stick around.
I might have to go. I'm sweating profusely, and I'm just jazzed up and sitting any longer. I'm gonna just start so.
Well, it's great, and thank you again so much for joining us. I mean, man, come on, thank you.
Ringside seats. It's an amazing place.
It really has. And I think, really for all of us that are here, myself included, I feel like we're super lucky to have found this audience, this crew, it's amazing.
It's a family. It really is. And I'm like the cousin that lives in a different state and only comes around once a year or something.
But we all think he's so cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes we don't want to talk to him, and we're like, is he not talking to us, or are we not talking to him?
Yeah, no, I'm busy drawing comics. I mean, I can't be posting every day on the Kayfabe group.
This book is really great, and I'm excited to read it. So, anyone else have any other final questions? Anything they've thought about? Brian, you had mentioned John Porcellino has a spit and a half is the best distro out there. So what do you want to talk about that at all? Is that something that, we can submit to, do you know, Brian?
He picked up a couple of my books. Hold on. I just thought he's open to submissions. He ain't open to everything, but he might go for some of this stuff. It's when we were talking about distros being in the short, I do think that is the problem. We need more distros, I also think there's a problem with everybody doing their own book. We need more anthologies of that type crew where it's the same 4 people. I love what you cats are doing on webcomics with the 4 of you each week. I think that's great. I think that's one of the best things I've seen from this group. And I, other than the thology, of course. But anyway, we need more distros. And John Porcellino has always put his money where his mouth was and distributed a lot of comics, great comics. Check out Spit and a Half. They got some great stuff.
Cool. I put that link down in the comments here as I was cruising through it. There's certainly looks amazing. Thanks for saying that about the webtoon thing. I mean, there's Chris spinning through it too. And I think that's, I don't know. I think I would love to do an anthology with everyone that's in here that's working on stuff. I mean, it's kind of what Wizard is, I think. It's basic, like at this point, it's more of an anthology than it is Wizard for sure.
It seems like number one was like we're a parody, and then number two will be like a little parody plus a lot of comics, and then number three will definitely probably be all comics.
I know, yeah. Like I almost want to change the title just to like, but then again, there's already name recognition with what we've got.
Well, you could just do like formerly known as Wizard.
Yeah, in the top little corner there.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
You can have that one for free. You don't have to pay me.
Thanks,
for that
dude.
one.
Thanks. I'll put a little asterisk there, and then in the bottom I'll have a little thing that says by Jeff Manley.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ian saying that Birdcage Bottom Books is also a good indie distro. It's like spit and a half, and it has pretty indie artist vibe. So it does seem like there's some more. And if anyone has had any other experiences with any type of distro, for sure put in the comments. Okay, looks like Sean's got a question. What's up, dude? Asking to unmute you. That's a nice sticker you've got there.
Hey, I was gonna say, the Warriors or Wizard anthology, rename it Warrior.
Warriors.
Like, yeah, you know, like that had
Warrior
Miracle
magazine.
Man, E for Vendetta.
Oh, I
British
didn't.
anthology.
Oh, I didn't know that one. I don't know that one.
Oh, damn. Shit. That's where, like, you know, Alan Moore and all that started. Yeah, that would be an anthology. Instead of calling it Wizard, call it Warrior, or however you want to, you know, change it
With
up.
another backwards E. Just have everything have a backwards E. Then we know.
You're gonna have to start putting your name with a backwards E.
Ooh, my God.
You can have that one for
Manly,
free. Too.
another one. Dang, I'm gonna
Just use the backwards W.
There you go. Oh, what's up, Ryan? Well, okay. He said a backwards W, but guys, it's the same both ways.
You want that book, like, webtoon? You gotta make a bootleg of that so I can have a hard copy
of the webtoon book. Yeah, we're thinking about it for sure. All right, so I can start talking a little bit about our next guest, if unless anyone else has another question for Jeffrey Manley. Do you think that in the mirror universe, Jeffrey Womanly has any comics?
Yes, and they're probably better. It's probably better.
Riley, a middle-aged Bigfoot, is a good
one. And Riley is also a girl's name, so it works.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So our next guest did just arrive. I want to say thank you so much to Manley, and I want to welcome our next guest. Do you want to bounce or you want to chill for a sec?
I think I'm going to bounce, but you guys are awesome.
All right, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us. We love your work, man. Please do. Everyone go out and pick something up of Jeff's.
Yes.
Zero Adventure is amazing. It's like a science fiction fun with a boy and his dog. And if not, Riley, a Teenage Bigfoot is so much fun.
All right. Yeah, all of it. Buy it all.
Literally buy it all.
I need a new car. Come on. Just buy it all.
Thank you again so much, Jeff.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
bye.
Man. All right. So our next guest is another self-publishing cartoonist, someone who has worked in his own realm, but then has also worked in the realm of licensed products. His creator-owned book, Chiaroscuro is an amazing slice of life that was published. This is the IDW edition. I believe maybe it was also published by Slave Labor. We'll ask him. He also did Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons. Ooh. He also did the amazing Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas that recently came out, as well as his own creator-owned book, Angora Napkin, which you can find on his website, which has a killer cartoon that goes along with it. So everyone, please say hello to Troy Little.
Hey, gang. Good to see y'all.
Woo! Cheers. Welcome. All right, so Troy, what we're talking about this week is self-publishing and creating and getting it going. So, as far as you started with Chiaroscuro, right? And you self-published it, or it got picked up?
Yeah, that was I was working in animation at the time, and was just getting kind of a little burned out about being on a cog sort of in the animation machine, wanting to tell my own stories. And right around that time, I discovered like Cerebus and Bone and Strangers in Paradise. And I'm like, wow, you can self-publish comics?
Yeah.
So for me, it was like this weird revelation, way after the black and white boom had ended.
Right.
So I came in on the tail end of that, trying to like get into black and white comics. And so I started very much kind of in the Dave Sim Gerhardt vein of, using the S172 quills and or S172 illustration boards and the Hunt 102s and all that stuff, just basically kind of mimicking Sim's style in a way with a cartoony bent and following his model of self-publishing. So I did that, and I got a Xeric grant for the series, which was pretty cool. Being a Ninja Turtles fan, that was like amazing.
Yes.
So that helped me with enough money and to publish about 7 issues worth of material before I ran out of cash to kind of keep it floating. And that was like print on paper, floppies. By the end of 7 issues, I hadn't finished the story by a long shot because my idea was way bigger than my abilities. So I just kept drawing it, figuring someday I'll finish the story or have enough material to collect. I figured 10 issues would be a good volume to collect. And so that's kind of what I did. After I'd finished the 10 issues, I did a little print on demand run, and I sent those copies out to different publishers thinking, okay, well, I've got a substantial amount of book here. What can I do with that? Will anyone bite on that? And I got absolutely no response whatsoever. But the one kind of lucky thing, which is kind of like the whole thing of my career, is Dave Sim. I'd sent him a copy as he was an inspiration for me starting self-publishing. And he, at the time, had somebody running a blog for him. And he reviewed my book and said he liked it. It just so happened that Ted Adams, the publisher at IDW, is a Cerebus fan. And he said, hey, I read about your book on Dave's blog. I'd be interested in taking a look at your book. I'm like, well, that's cool because I already sent you a copy. If you don't have that handy, I'll send you another one like tomorrow. So he said, yeah, I know, I never seen it. So I quickly sent him a copy of my print on demand book. And he said, how would you like to have that as a hardcover edition through IDW? I'm like, hell yeah. And so that kind of started my relationship working with IDW. It's just a part 1 of a book that never got a part 2 because kind of like in that David Lynch way, Twin Peaks got canceled and it took 25 years for the return to come on. So some people are still asking me when Chiaroscuro book 2 is coming out. It's kind of like, well, I haven't gotten to the 25-year mark yet. So, but don't hold your breath either.
Well, I kind of am, but I mean, it's really enjoyable, and I picked it up. I have the hardcover, and I found some of the floppies recently. Actually, I'm super psyched. And
oh wow!
It's one of the it's definitely got that type of feel. Let's see if I can get myself up. It's got that Dave Sim type of feel. With the black and white, the like a lot of detail. That's like obviously
it was a spare time project after hours, and it took years to finish that book. So you can see like the growth on the page 1 by the end. I actually got the hang of cross-hatching a lot better.
Yeah.
So my lines got really fine in that, but it took 5 years.
Well, okay, that's where you started, but then now the most recent book that you put out is Angora Napkin, and this one you did with a Kickstarter. So what's the difference, and like why move to a Kickstarter to get stuff going, versus trying to get it self-published or trying to get IDW to pick it up?
Right. So kind of the history of Angora Napkin. I was working in animation, like I mentioned, and a buddy of mine, Nick Cross, and Nick's gone on to do like absolutely amazing stuff with the Cartoon Network. If you've all seen Over the Garden Wall, which you should.
Yeah.
Nick was the art director on that, animator, background painter, phenomenal stuff. So me and Nick went to college together. He ended up moving in with me. We got jobs in animation in Ottawa. And one day we got laid off and thought, geez, what do you do when you're laid off with work? I thought you just had a job. I didn't really get this freelancing gig, that things worked on contracts.
Right.
After being off for a few months, we thought, well, geez, you know, maybe we should just make our own cartoon. Like that's just what you do.
Yeah.
So we pitched some ideas of like, what would be the cartoon we'd want to make? This would be 1997, just before the Powerpuff Girls came out. And actually, the Powerpuff Girls did a lot of the stuff we wanted to do, and so Nick, in a sense, kind of lost interest in the project.
Which is ironic because then you went on to draw Powerpuff Girls as well.
Right, and draw the Powerpuff Girls eventually. Yeah.
Right, and draw.
So
did your experience with this like inform some of that, or?
Well, yeah. So Nick and I had done a lot of stories in storyboard format and wrote a lot of scripts for Angora Napkin.
Interesting.
It just wasn't happening. So we kind of bailed on it and shelved it. But I just love the characters. I love the ideas. It was just kind of my sense of humor. And so years later, I said, you know, hey, what if I made comics out of this, Nick? Would you be cool with that? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. So I did a book, and I was actually working on that book as a bit of a break from chiaroscuro, like kind of just, I don't want to crosshatch anymore. I want to draw something cartoony and fun. And so that was kind of my like escape from that, like sort of as like, I'll come back to chiaroscuro. I just gonna do this little side gig, you know, just kind of get that cartooniness out of my system.
Yeah.
That turned into like a 5-year getting it out of my system project. And it showed up kind of at the same time as the whole IDW thing. So when they published chiaroscuro, and I said, you know, oh, wow, that's neat. I have another project, by the way, that's half done, Angora Napkin. Would you like to check it out? They said, oh, well, we'll publish that. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. And it somehow got nominated for an Eisner. So I'm thinking, I'm just doing the wrong project. Chiaroscuro, Angora Napkin's where everything is going to happen, right? That's going to be my Hellboy. That'd be the thing that's going to sustain me for the rest of my life in comics. So I got lucky. It got an Eisner nomination, and I lost to Jill Thompson, Evan Dorkin for Beast of Burden, of course. Although I tried to buy a drink for Jill Thompson there at the Eisner Awards, saying, hey, you know, you're going to win anyway, but let's just say I buy you a drink, and, you know, you give me your Eisner, and we just call it a day. She tried to convince me to rush the stage and hit her with a chair and just make a big show out of it, but, you know, I'm a coward.
Wow.
So it didn't happen.
Dang, kayfabe right
there. No, it would have been something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Any case, I started working on a second book of Angora Napkin, Harvest of Revenge, because I thought, well, that's like getting some traction. And we got up here in Canada, which is where I am, we have Cartoon Network Lite, which is called Teletoon. And it's filled with crappy cartoons. But they were trying to do what Cartoon Network was doing and get a late night adult programming section. So they did like a cross Canada call for ideas, and we submitted Angora Napkin, and they actually picked us up as one of their 10s for 10 ideas for a pilot project.
Oh, wow.
So me, Nick, and a few other people, just a handful of friends, just cobbled together in Flash animation and Photoshop, like an animated pilot. It's up on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. If you haven't seen it, it's, you know, a little dated with Flash, but it's still pretty fun, you know.
Yeah, I liked it.
Thank you.
It's very Ren and Stimpy, and isn't that, you said that's what you were doing when you were working in animation? You were painting backgrounds. Was it for Ren and Stimpy? Or
I had done a lot of stuff in animation. It started out just doing backgrounds, and then I moved into like teaching myself how to do all the other jobs as well, just kind of like stay employed. So I learned posing, I learned storyboarding, and whatever else I could kind of do to just keep myself busy in the industry.
Right.
I figured the more I knew,
exactly. The more you knew, then you can put it to use for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was working at Spumco Ottawa when he was doing the really crappy adult cartoon party Ren and Stimpy's and Ripping Friends. So I worked on those shows.
Gotcha.
And they did sort of inform that very, very cartoony style that I was doing at the time, you know, just completely rubbery bonkers stuff, you know. And it was a lot of fun. I kind of found I really enjoyed working in that way, as opposed to the heavy cross hatching and drawing kind of out of my comfort zone so far that I didn't really like anything I was producing.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, cartoons more my bag.
Yeah.
That's where the fun is. And I kept doing Angora Napkin for a while. And the second book got an Eisner nomination as well, and I lost again, which was fine. I'm a perpetual loser, but I keep trying.
As long as you keep getting nominated.
It's not how many times you get knocked down, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's why we ride the horse. Wait,
That's why we drink.
Exactly. All right, just real quick, shout out to Brian Payne, who was a guest here, but he said Chiaroscuro is one of his favorite books.
Oh wow,
awesome, man. He said
thank you.
He loves it. Yeah. So shout out to Brian. He's a great cartoonist.
Thank you, Brian. It's awesome how many people pull that one out and be like, when's book 2 coming out? And that was the best thing you ever did. And I'm like, man. Well, I'm working on one now that people will like. It's not Chiaroscuro, but I think it's more in that vein.
Nice.
But I can get to that later. Anyway.
Coffee fueled personal adventures.
Oh, it's an epic. It's an epic one I'm getting to now. But yeah, I'll get to that anyways. So what was I talking about? Angora Napkin. How did I get from Angora Napkin to IDW?
Oh yeah, and Kickstarter.
So I did the 2 books with them, and I kind of found myself working on. You ever heard this TV show called Paw Patrol?
Of course, yeah.
Anyone have kids? Everyone hates me now because I did storyboards on season 1 for that show.
Oh wow!
And it was this. I hated it. So take comfort in that. But I quit. I couldn't do it. And then I called up IDW and said, I've only done 2-3 books with them, and they've all been creator owned, and they've made me that much money. So, do you have anything I can do that isn't G.I. Joe or Transformers? Because I can't draw that stuff,
Yeah.
And I just got lucky again. Happened to be the day they had gotten the Cartoon Network license. We're wondering who they were going to get to launch PowerPuff Girls. And I was like, this guy wants to do that. And in my total naive monthly com indie mentality, I'm like, I want to draw it. I want to write it. I want to draw it. I want to ink it. I want to color it. I want to letter it by hand. I want to do everything. And they're like, whoa, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. So I said, no, trust me. I got this. And I did have that for about 1 issue. And I realized there's no way I can hit a monthly schedule doing all of that. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But they let me write a 6-issue miniseries, which was the first time the Powerpuff Girls had been kind of back in any medium since they went off the air. And that was cool because I was a big fan of the show. And Craig McCracken's stuff is just amazing. It just totally suits my sense of humor and sensibilities. And getting to work on the Powerpuff Girls was awesome. I'd heard rumors about the reboot happening, and I was, asking them, begging them, please let me do the original OG style with the heavy lines and UPA look. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine. So luckily I got in under the wire to do that.
Nice.
And I did 6 issues of that. And then I was going to be doing another 4-issue series, but my son was born and I had to take some time off for that.
Sure. Yeah.
And managed to do a 2-issue series before it ran its 10 issues and was done. So that was my out for Powerpuff Girls at the time. Well, I say it was my out because I was working on it and I got an email right out of the blue one day. So, submitting your pages and they're looking good. Powerpuff Girls is great. Everything you're doing is looking really good. Would you be interested in pitching for this book? Where do you get the guy who draws Powerpuff Girls as the idea to be the guy who does the adaptation of Hunter Thompson's drug-fueled Vegas trip?
Yeah, I was wondering. That was always interesting. It's but again, it's perfect.
I know I haven't gotten your question yet. Is how
it's
did
fine.
I get to
It's
Angora
fine.
Napkin? But let me just say, with Angora Napkin, I don't finish the Angora Napkin story.
All right,
I did the 2 books, and then they did a collected volume, and they actually put the DVD in the back, so you could actually have the cartoon pilot with the book. And again, it sold that many copies. So I'm starting to think I've given you 3 books. I've made $0 in about 10 or 15 years of my life and hard work. I could probably just go back to self-publishing and do better. Gotcha. Now you know why I have.
Gotcha. Okay.
Even if I sold $10, I would have done better.
Because it all okay.
Yeah.
So some of us small publishers who are small press who are like, oh man, we want to submit. We're trying to get with IDW or whoever. It's you really should just, in this age of internet and having a target market like we're lucky enough to have with the Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside seats, you might as well just cut out the middleman and just do it. Just do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been our attitude. Me and you can see my wife back here. Say hi, Brenda. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
Who's
Brenda's-
also a published artist as well. Artist and
22nd of this month, her new book, Agretzko, Literary Sunshine. Writer, artist, right there, and colorist. She did the whole thing too. She's as indie as I am, trying to sneak her way into the mainstream. So that's coming out in a few days.
Man, it's such a cool thing.
Yeah, she was My Little Pony for 6 years.
That's right.
6 years. Anyway, too much My Little Pony for sure. So she had to branch out and spread her tiny wings and fly.
All right, let's take the questions over to Craig CK, who's got the next question.
I'm sorry to say, Eli. Well, not sorry to say, but I'm a little bit late to your party. Eli introduced me to your work a couple of weeks ago now. I love the Rick and Morty stuff. Obviously, I'm a huge fan. But I was reading Angora Napkin, and a couple things that I picked up on, and I've kind of been thinking this way is like, when an animator does a comic book, you can always tell because the movement of the characters is a little bit more. It's more exaggerated, but it looks really good. So I wanted to comment on that. And
thank you.
The one thing that really blew my mind, that really grabbed me, was the lettering, because it's so different. Like it changes style, like sometimes mid-sentence and stuff, and it's not jarring. Like there's a big conversation about lettering in this group, particularly because of the group's involvement with Ed Piscor. He loves hand lettering, and so we always kind of focused on it. But the lettering in those stories, it varies so much, but it's not jarring and doesn't pull you out. Did you do the lettering?
Yeah.
Yourself?
Yes.
For the whole thing? Wow.
Yeah, for me, lettering's like is part of the design. It's part of the artwork. If it isn't working kind of to like with the art in and around it, or adding inflection or amping up an emotion, or just being illustrated in some way too, and you just kind of a missed opportunity. When I look at the Rick and Morty pages, I mean, Jim and Patrick, and I mean, Rick and Morty is a very talky show, so it's going to be a very talky comic. And when you draw it, you have to realize I gotta leave a lot of dead space for all these balloons to be pasted over all of your artwork, and there'd just be tons of balloons. But that's the nature of that project. It's just a very talky project, and you can't kind of feel it out the same way as you do with your own personal projects, where it's like, okay, this needs to be 2 pages, not 1 page, because I need to let it breathe. I need to hit those beats. I need to use some of the page for lettering or pacing it out. It's just a different beast than working on the monthlies from somebody else's script. But I found, like, when I do my own work, I always want to hand letter it. Like the stuff that I'm doing now, I'm hand lettering it with Fear and Loathing. Anything that wasn't a typed at font that was hand lettered as well. It's
really wild. I think because my ass, like, I hate lettering. I hate it. It comes from my day job, and because I tattoo, so it's like I see so much of that shit all the time. So when it comes to comic books, it's like the last thing I'm thinking about. But
live, laugh, love.
Yeah,
put that on there.
Shotgun in the mouth. I swear to God, that's probably worse than Paw Patrol. Yeah, that'd probably be my Paw Patrol. Yeah, right?
It might be.
We used to have one. I tattooed one on my buddy, and it said, what was it? Die, laugh, cry, something along those lines. Like, just so tired of doing it. But going back to the lettering, like looking at this stuff, and there's a couple of other people, obviously, but it really kind of brings you back into focus that it's not just about drawing the figures or making sure that your perspective's on point or whatever. You're using grids. There's that whole other side of it. And I realized upon looking at that stuff, it's like, I need to pay a little bit more fucking attention to it. You know what I mean? Even though I hate it. And it just really works. It was something that really stood out to me, besides the artwork itself, which I loved. I thought it was great. It's got lots of movement and stuff. And I always think that comes from an animator's perspective. You know what I mean? It's just the way things move, they stretch, they bend, and whatnot. So I've been loving everything I've been reading of yours so far, and new fan. So
thank you. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate that.
And
yeah, definitely I'm a Dave Sim magpie with a lot of it. Just being studying his early work and stuff like that, and his lettering, like when I was starting out, And the way he did this pacing and laid out his pages and stuff, because as incoherent as some of those later books get, Cerebus is like a visual masterpiece as far as comic storytelling goes.
There's a gentleman that's usually with us, Ben Granoff, and he keeps saying that over and over again. I have never read it. It's on my list of things to read, but I'm gonna get to it. But just so you know, this room is full of fellow Canadians. You're not alone here, bud.
Hey, there's high society right over there.
There's a handful of us in here, and we got one.
Good, eh? Where are you at, Craig? Where are you from?
I'm in Oshawa, just outside of Toronto.
Oh yes, make a lot of cereal there, don't they?
Yeah, well, they used to make a lot of cars here, not so much.
Oh, cars, okay. Yeah. I thought I got my like Lucky Charms and mini wheats from Oshawa.
We make a lot of meth addicts and hookers.
Oh, I threw in a shout out to Oshawa in the Angora Napkin cartoon, actually.
I have to check that out.
Yeah, in the animated pilot, I did that. Yeah, check it out. I did a shout out to Oshawa.
You might have just become my favorite person.
But I know it's a deep cut there, but I've made one new fan tonight. Then I'm doing good.
We did it.
Sure. Thanks again for your time.
No problem, Greg.
All right, let's go over to Rick Lopez, and then we're going to hit you up, Jerome. And then anyone else who has a question, please raise your hand or throw it in the comments, and we'll ask Troy here. So what's up, Rick?
Hey, Rick.
What's up, Troy? Okay, so like in my area is pretty small in Southern California, and a few years ago we had gotten a comic shop pretty close to my place, and basically I saw Fear and Loathing #1, dude, and I had to have that thing. And you were just getting to basically my question, because I was like, I've talked to Eli about it a little bit, but it's like, how the fuck does that even come about? You know, like what, because you said that someone, like, they were getting ready to talk to you about it and everything, but it's like, so what did happen? Like, how did that all come about, man? Because I'm so fucking curious. Like, that's gotta be awesome as fuck.
How do you go from Powerpuff Girls to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is like the greatest transition in comics ever, in my opinion, anyways, in my life for sure. I'm a huge Hunter Thompson fan, so like one of my favorite books. I just love that book. I love the movie. When I got that random like kind of tag onto your email, hey, by the way, would you be interested in pitching for Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? I'm just like, yes. And then 2 weeks of doing nothing about it because I completely psyched myself out. They just wanted to see like a pitch. What would you do? And I'm like, what would I do? I don't know what I would do. How would it? No, I would, everything I do, I would ruin it. That's what I would do. And I shouldn't do it. But then I love the book. If somebody else is going to do it, maybe they won't love it as much as me. And then I wish I did do it. And, anyway, so it came down to the editor messaging me and saying, look, I went to bat for you, sort of thing, saying like, maybe it'd be a cool idea to have you pitch for this. Are you going to do this? And I said, give me a deadline. He said, Monday. This is Friday. And fine, Monday. And I took a page from the novel and it kind of illustrated it. And I thought maybe this is what I would do, kind of with my rereading the book again and again kind of thing. I'd be like, okay, for me, I'm getting this like sense of this manic energy. And I'm a cartoonist at heart, so cartoony manic energy. Okay, that's what I'm going to try and do, is this exaggerated version of it. And I did a page, and I colored it and lettered it, and sent it off, and then started swearing because I thought I blew it big time. I thought, oh my god, I just blew it, and I was not happy camper. And then 2 days later, I got a message saying, "You're off Powerpuff Girls. The estate's hired you to do Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas for the next year and a half." And so it was full stop, done Powerpuff Girls. I have to figure out how do I adapt an entire novel and not screw it up. Which is basically my mandate, was don't screw it up. So one of the first things we decided to do with the editor and the publisher was, we're not touching a single word of Hunter Thompson's and changing it. Because really that is the absolute core of it. Too much respect for Hunter Thompson to try and like adapt it. And I always hate it when they adapt something you love and turn it into something it's not.
Right.
So right off the bat, it was Hunter's words, your pictures. And I figured you can't lose there, because if they don't like the artwork, well, they can't fault the lettering and like the words because it's all straight from the novel, like verbatim. So it, you know, abridged, I want to say, because you can't put every single thing in there. And then they just trusted me to kind of go at it. They left me completely alone with the book and my insecurities and doubts, and hoped I wasn't going to screw this up for the next year and a half. And when it was announced that it was being adapted as a graphic novel, that was the first time I really got hate from the internet. That was really fun. It's just people online going like, who is this guy? And somebody should break his hands and put fire ants in his eyes, and somebody must stop him, and all that sort of thing, which is really funny.
They made it.
Yeah, well, the hate I was expected because he's got pretty like fanatical fans, and I can't kind of fault that whatsoever. It's a cult classic for a reason. People are very fanatical and very protective. It's like, you're not Ralph Steadman. Who do you think you are? And it wasn't like, don't try to be Ralph Steadman. I would fail being Ralph Steadman. Anyone would fail being Ralph Steadman. So don't even try. Do something completely different. I think the idea, in a sense, was you've got the book, you've got Terry Gilliam's film, you got Ralph Steadman's art. This is like another version of it. You know, you may like it, you may not like it, but it's not going to be like a rehash of the film, because as much as I love the film, when I found out I got the job, I'm like, okay, I can't watch the movie again. It's just straight into the book. Everything that inspires me is straight from the book, straight from the text. And that's what I'm focusing on. I didn't actually watch the movie until the book was published. I rented the theater and did a book signing and a screening of Fear Loathing Las Vegas. First time I'd seen it since, and I'm like, wow, this is dark. Because I really got the manic comedy out of it, like the kind of tongue-in-cheek and the goofiness. And Gilliam took it really dark, and I kind of forgot how dark he took it. So it was really interesting to kind of see that. You know, I was dressed as Hunter Thompson too. I had the jacket, hat, and the glasses.
Yeah, Eli was telling me you had your blue pencil instead of a cigarette.
Got it. That's right. Yeah, I think I was doing that kind of like get up as I was doing the tour, and I think Eli came by the booth at San Diego Comic-Con there. I was probably dressed as Hunter S. Thompson, trying to do my best Johnny Depp Hunter S. Thompson version.
I'm right.
I'm right. And then
awesome,
I mean that I was saying, when you say you got issue 1, so that was the black and white issue, right?
Right.
Because they did 4 issues. Mm-hmm. And that's a really weird thing that happened, is because the graphic novel came out first, full color. Some reason IDW decided that they wanted to go back, strip out all the color, and release it as issues. Just think maybe it'd be an opportunity to draw more attention to the book or something. I don't really know, but yeah, it was like a weird kind of going backwards and doing it that way. But the one neat thing about it, if you've got the issues, is I had this idea, and it was like a joke that I kind of hoped would happen. I talked to my editor. The book was coming out. I'm like, the only way to properly promote this book is for you to fly me down to Vegas, the Beverly Hills Hotel, dress me as Hunter Thompson, rent me a red convertible, Singapore Slings Mezcal at the Polo Lounge, cross desert burn to Vegas, doing book signings along the way. And they said, okay. So that was like, are you serious? Is this really going to happen? And it really did happen. They flew me out. I did a big signing at IDW HQ, and then me and my publicist, Lee Walton, we went Singapore Slings, Mezcal, dressed as Hunter Thompson at the Polo Lounge, and that was the beginning of our red convertible burn through the desert to Vegas, which was documented in the comic. I did the tour diary comics as it was happening. I think they were serializing them on Boing Boing or something like that, but they decided to put them in these black and white editions as a backup story. So everything that happened in those diary comics is what was happening in kind of real time. I was staying up late drawing these things, and I got really sick on that tour. And so you see me drawing myself sick, and and that was really fun. A year later, the guys who run the Mint 400 called me up because they'd seen that the book had been out, and said, if we flew you down to the Mint 400, would you do the whole like thing, right, and sign books and stuff? And I said, sure. So I ended up back in Vegas 1 year later, like in like literally they let me hop the fence with my press badge dressed like Hunter Thompson and stuff, and these trucks are bombing through the desert just 100 feet from me. I'm promoting a graphic novel. Totally different experience, but it was a lot of fun. So that whole Fear and Loathing, like doing the book and then having everything else that happened after it, actually going to Vegas for the first time in my life and having that experience, and having the secondary experience of actually going to the Mint 400 was just absolutely incredible. So yeah, like absolutely one of the best times of my life.
Yeah, seriously, dude. Now it's like how you're talking about, like you got the book, you have the movie, you have your comic, you know, like you're part of that, and that's like really fucking cool, dude.
Yeah,
and like
it was.
Yeah, obviously you're not Stedman, but you fucking did it, dude, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah,
awesome,
I definitely threw some nods to Stedman in there. If you're looking in the monsters or the cops and stuff like that, I definitely copied a few Stedman things. There's even a scene in there where I've got near the end, I think, when Hunter's whipping the white whale around to go the other way and stuff, and the guy he cuts off is Ralph Steadman in the car, and he's like, Ralph is yelling at him as he would be like, Ralph. So yeah, anything I do to kind of like throw some nods to Stedman, because he's absolutely the king of this stuff. You know, he's the original Gonzo. So they asked me a few times to, like, if I'd be interested in doing another Hunter Thompson book. I said like the Curse of Lono would be the closest I'd want to, like, as far as the tone goes. They really wanted to look at the Campaign Trail 72, but every time I started trying to read it, I'd be like, no, I'm glazing over. This is journalism with a bit of Hunter Thompson in it, but it's not that kind of adventure serial that Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was. And they said, well, what about Hell's Angels? And I'm like, I thought about that too, but I had another editor kind of come on and be like, listen, the last thing you want to do is invite the Hell's Angels into your universe, because they'll come by your table and say, you owe me money for this. And like, maybe just don't do that. Right. So I thought, well, it's probably best to, like, not just ride the Hunter S. Thompson coattails either. That was an amazing opportunity, and don't overstay your welcome. I had other things I wanted to do.
That's fucking sick, dude. Congrats.
Good time. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, dude. I mean, obviously, what an opportunity that was. Going to Vegas, that whole tour, the promo tour you did, dude, so awesome.
It's too much fun. Yeah, I said, why didn't you get, I didn't find this out too much later, but I'm like, why didn't you get Jim Mafood or somebody better than me to do this? Because, like,
at least he did the variant cover for issue 1.
He did, I know, and oh man, I'm like so happy that happened. And I cornered Jim at New York Comic Con one time. I'm like, why didn't you do that? And he's like, I didn't even answer the email. Like, I'm not touching that book. Like, that book means too much to me. I love that book, but I don't want to screw it up.
I mean, well, you did an awesome job, dude. And it's exactly what it needed. And like you said, you didn't try to, like, do Ralph. You did your own thing. And because there's so much in the book that, like, wasn't even in the movie too. So, like, you were able to do all of that stuff too and add your own feel to these quote unquote new scenes that people who never read the book and only saw the movie had no idea about. You know?
Like the taco stand scene is like one of the absolute, and the absolute key scene of that book, right? It's the linchpin of the narrative, and it's missing from the film. So that boggles my mind.
I know. That's why I bought those original pages from you.
That's my man.
All right, Jerome, you got your hand up, bro. What's up? This is Jerome Cabanatan, another Canadian cartoonist.
Hey, brother.
Hey. What's going on, Troy?
Not too bad.
Thanks for coming out. I'm sorry. I'm probably gonna. I know you guys. You were talking about Fear and Loathing, but I'm probably gonna have to like kill that good vibe, because my question's about. It's about Paw Patrol, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
All right, turn off the video. How do I get out of here?
Well, it is because you have your history of making other people's books and your own and your own but you have that experience of working at something that you really, really hated, right? You said you hated the Paw Patrol. I don't know how your wife felt about doing a My Little Pony, but I don't know if the feelings are there. But when it comes to doing like the jobs that you don't like to do, like, are there any gems that stick with you? Like, is there something that you learned from doing that thing that you didn't want to do, right? Throughout the contract or whatever, right? But because like sometimes you don't know if you'll like something when you start it. Like, you might be excited to do it, right? Probably getting the job was like, yay, right? Okay, I'm in. I'm doing something, right? Doing something there. But then if you hate it, how long did you stay? Right? How long did you stay? And like, what did you get out of it? Because you couldn't have just done that and then come out with zero, right? There must have been some kind of advancement that, whether it's speed or maybe, I don't know. That's a question for you to answer. Sorry.
That's good. No, with a lot of that will date back to my animation days. I was never trained as an animator. I was trained as an illustrator. I went to Sheridan College in Oakville. And it's just through weird happenstance, I moved to Ottawa, and somebody told me, like at a bar, like, oh, you like to draw? Do you work at one of the animation studios? And I was like, animation studios? That's a thing here in Ottawa? They had 3 studios. So I was working a graveyard shift at a gas station thinking, well, anything would be better than this, especially a gas, an animation gig. So I tried to put together a portfolio thinking, I don't know the first thing about working in animation. I like animation. I mean, I grew up, Looney Tunes is my absolute favorite thing. So I put together what I thought was like the best portfolio I could. And I went to the 3 studios, and it was like, thanks, we'll call you. Thanks, we'll call you. And then the third one was just a startup saying, do you know how to draw backgrounds? I'm like, yes, I do. So I started drawing backgrounds for Franklin the Turtle, and that ended up like being 4 seasons of Franklin the Turtle, just trees and rocks.
Sorry, you did Franklin and Paw Patrol?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You did both of them? Oh man,
yeah. I've got my street cred just at the School of Hard Knocks. Yeah, Franklin and a lot of Nelvana Teleteen stuff, right? So, man, yeah. But once you kind of got your foot in the industry and you start working with other people who have other jobs, I was like learning how to like, oh, okay, there's a job for kind of key posing, and then learning how to do storyboarding, and then even getting in and doing like voice acting here and there where I could or something, or seeing how scripts were made. So as much as like those jobs might have been like, a drag, you get fast, once you know how to draw trees and rocks or Franklin the Turtle. Me and my buddy Nick were just kind of in competition to see how many scenes a week we could do. And we were knocking out like hundreds of backgrounds a week, just trying to like outdo one another, which was great money at the time too. It's like, when I got into comics, that was like all cut in 2, like cut right in half. But after a while, animation just stopped doing it for me, like I learned a lot from just like how to draw quickly, how to adapt styles. That was a really big thing. And also something that's a bit of a problem for me now too, because I'm very much a chameleon. I can kind of draw, my style, this style. I just started this Doctor Who sketch cover for fun, because I had this idea, and I'm like, oh, I've never drawn Dr. Seuss style before, but apparently I can. And I think that's just a lot of my background of being very adaptable. With drawing through animation, you're always jumping from different show to different show. But it wasn't until I started working on like the Ripping Friends and working with John Kay that I would really kind of got a serious lesson on structure and kind of like really how the good stuff is done, and that took me way back into the early days of animation stuff, the stuff that I liked, where there was a lot of structure to it and a lot of lines of action. And I started really, he wouldn't kind of like accept half-assed work. So a lot of people were getting chewed up at that studio because he would just grind them to a pulp, and somehow he seemed to like me enough. I got by. And it definitely informed a lot about how I kind of like think from there, as far as like designing the page or designing the characters and using structure, or not repeating drawings, not just drawing the same head over and over again, which you've seen in Angora Napkin. Probably just don't try to repeat the same drawing, like a stock drawing,
Yeah.
So, you know, that was all fine and dandy, but animation did kind of run its course for me. I did a few years of storyboard work, and on like Paw Patrol and True in the Rainbow Kingdom, I think might be one of my last ones, Netflix show. And I just found it to be a real grind, not really satisfying. But Paw Patrol just murdered me. I mean, you get 6 dogs and a bunch of humans, and they're transforming vehicles, and you've got 1 month to do a 11-minute storyboard in. Absolutely brutal.
Did you ever work on Caillou?
No. It never got that bad.
Thank
It never got that bad.
I would, I would love to work like in some kind of cartoon thing, but I don't know how long it would go. I don't even know. When you said it's like it was almost by accident how you came in, where you just like and just applied and got lucky on the third shot. So just keep trying, I guess, right?
Yeah, I didn't know there's an animation studio. Like I didn't know messaging IDW would get me the Powerpuff Girls job. Like so many things happen just out of the random, just because you're open to it and you're just keeping at it, you know. Like so many things I've done just seems to just show up out of nowhere. Rick and Morty showed up out of nowhere with the D&D project. Yeah, bizarre stuff. It's all crazy. But as far as the comics go, like I've been really stupidly lucky in comics. Everything I've worked on, I've enjoyed. I don't think there's any project. And how, again, lucky, when I was doing the Fear and Loathing book tour, the first stop I did was a signing at IDW headquarters. And they have, if you guys know, they used to have an art gallery there. So they had all the Fear and Loathing artwork on display. And they said, do you mind if Kevin Eastman signs with you tonight? And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm dressed like Hunter Thompson, Kevin Eastman sitting next to me. And I'm like, you tell myself from 1984 who's buying Ninja Turtles issue number 3 or whatever like that I'd be doing this someday. That's bonkers. And he's the nicest, absolute nicest guy. And if you haven't met him, you should meet him. If you have met him, you know what I'm talking about. Kevin's amazing.
They still have one or two of your pieces up when I went to the.
Oh yeah,
the Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock. The Wave Finally Broke page. I saw that one there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It took a long time to get my artwork back from them. Finally, like a long time, years to try and get it. They had it locked in a vault somewhere, and everybody who had been at IDW pretty much had left, and nobody knew the combination. It was a challenge to get the artwork back. Kevin helped me actually get it out of there, so that was cool. And then a couple of years ago, like out of the blue, I get a message from Kevin Eastman, who remembered me from the Fear and Loathing book and said, you know, I'm working on this new project called Drawing Blood, radically rearranged font and ragdolls, and it'd be really cool to have you involved in that project somehow. I'm a hell yeah. So as much as I was like just starting a Rick and Morty, getting to work with Kevin Eastman was kind of like a no-brainer, you know. And I was doing both projects at the same time, working off Kevin's layouts. He would design the pages and lay them out, and like we worked on designing the characters together with Ben Bishop. And man, we did a mock reinvention of the Ninja Turtles kind of thing, but with cats. And we did one issue of that as kind of like a side joke to kind of go with the Drawing Blood series that Kevin had kickstarted. And it was a challenge for me because working off Kevin's stuff is just not the way I would normally draw stuff. I felt like this bit of push and pull kind of thing of like, I want it to look like my stuff, but I'm also kind of drawing over Kevin's stuff. And I know the fans are here for Kevin because who am I? You know, they're here for Kevin Eastman. I'm not fooling myself. So it came out kind of weird, and for me, it looks a little clunky, but a lot of people really like it. I'm like, okay, cool. And we had an opportunity to do a second Kickstarter for Drawing Blood Volume 2, and Kevin and David, the writer, were gracious enough to kind of let me actually step in and do my indie thing, where I'm like, I want to write it and draw it and color it and ink it and letter it and, you know, all that. And they said, okay. You know, so me and David kind of worked together. I wrote a story outline and passed it through David, and we went back and forth on the script. And I got to kind of draw the ragdoll story that I would want to draw, which is more in line with like the cartoony version. So it's like the idea that Ninja Turtles started with Mirage Studios, and they were gritty, but they got really popular at the Nickelodeon cartoony version. Well, that was the same idea. Like the original Ragdolls comic was going to be this gritty, you know, Shane Bookman, Kevin Eastman kind of thing. And then my version was the Nickelodeon kind of evolution of it, where they kind of blew up. And that issue hasn't actually been printed yet because Last Ronin seemed to like blow up. A lot of people seem to be talking about this Last Ronin comic. So David, not David, but Ben, who's the artist for Drawing Blood, got real busy, not drawing blood pages because he got drawing the Last Ronin pages. And who can blame him? But that's put the Drawing Blood series off for a little while. It's put off the Ragdolls comic, which has been done for over a year and a half. It's all done, like a 40-page one-shot that I drew and wrote and colored. And no, I didn't color it. Actually, Leonardo Edu colored it. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself there. It's also like 11 o'clock here in PEI, so I'm a little tired. But yeah, no, that will come out hopefully this year. I haven't talked to Kevin recently, so we'll see where they're at with things once the Last Ronin dies down.
Yeah, I'm super psyched for that.
Awesome,
definitely on board for that Kickstarter. Thanks, Jerome.
No problem. Thank you. If you need another Canadian on any one of those jobs, we know a couple around here.
No, right on. Well, I keep getting animation gigs asking me, and I like resist going back all the time. But you know, do you work in animation at all? I can point them. I always try to point them to somebody to give somebody a job.
Yes, because that's what you do. You say yes, right?
You say yes. Yeah, I know how to storyboard.
Yes.
Right.
When someone asks if you're a god, you say yes.
Exactly.
On your knees when you ask.
All right, we got the next Canadian here to ask you another question. It is Jason Lapidus, another amazing cartoonist. If I'm
there's Jason. Hey, Jason.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just mostly curious with the PEI thing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm way out here in PEI where it's COVID safe. I just want to be near any of y'all.
That's totally understandable. So what comic shops do you go to out there?
We have two. And when I grew up, we had none, which was a spinner rack at a smoke shop near my edge of the woods in Summerside. But now I live in Charlottetown, and there's Comic Hunter and Lightning Bolt Comics. Nice. Lightning Bolt's this delightful little dungeon, and Comic Hunter's been around for many years. And it's cramped tight with lots of stuff. Like they're small, but they're mighty, you know?
Yeah, I was out there. I was out there, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, and I don't remember doing any comic shopping in Charlottetown or Summerside for that matter.
Hard to find. Yeah, there's
I was
not a lot.
I was with my new wife, and that was we weren't doing any comic book shopping at the time. But that's so. Do you get to do any other in a regular year? Do you get to do any comic events in Canada that you enjoy, that you have an affinity for?
TCAF, one of my favorite like all-time shows, which I just did virtually, and I unfortunately didn't enjoy because virtually. But Jason, Toronto, when you're actually there in Toronto, like, man, what a great show. I spend more money at that show than I do on comics in an entire year. I spend it in a weekend because it's got everything I want, you know? That place is just a bomb. And I love what it's kind of spawned. Like there's one in Halifax called DCAF, the Dartmouth Comic Art Festival, put on by Strange Adventures, which is our like maritime. If you haven't been to Strange Adventures, please go. Cal's the best. He's the absolute hero of comics.
I have some Strange Adventures paraphernalia stuff, something within reach. We
get the flag on our wall right here.
Nice.
Strange Adventures flag. He just sends us stuff all the time. He's great.
He's awesome. I turned Craig CK onto Strange Adventures as well. And I try and have like a regular shipment coming from Cal to Toronto because he has a great selection and he looks out for his customers. So did you have? He is great, totally. And I met him at TCAF too. He was at Toronto at the last TCAF with his daughter, and they were visiting. Yep. I ran into him there. Did you have any kind of experience at the virtual TCAF, or was it just the void, the nothing?
It was a bust. You know, basically, you know, I put up I spent the effort in like kind of building a website that they could maybe visit amongst the hundreds of others. They made a Zoom room one night where you could go in, like there was kind of an open call for a couple of hours, and you know, nobody really showed up for anybody who was there. Like, you know, it just was like I know you're trying, and I appreciate that, because really, what else can you do? But man, I was just disappointed because I love TCAF so much. Every time I go there, it's the absolute best time. To kind of have it less than was not good with me. So I'm looking forward to going back in person next time. I won't do a virtual show after that because it was just too soured me on it.
For sure. I understand. I participated in TCAF as well, and I had a very similar experience that you had.
Right.
And I'm still waiting to see any money. Right? They haven't finished that side of it yet. And I just keep in mind that it's like all run by volunteers other than Peter. And it was a first time thing for everybody.
Yeah.
But man, it stunk.
I had hope, but my hope were very, very low. And that wasn't even really met. So it's kind of how my gut was telling me, like, after I kind of agreed to it, that I like probably shouldn't have done this. I probably should have saved my few bucks from a virtual table and just went it's in person next time. But whatever. You mean this will all be over and back to
for sure. Thank you.
Program.
Thanks for your time, and enjoy your very wonderful island that you're on. It's a beautiful place that you live.
It's a good spot, and it's been like absolutely business as usual here. Like the kids, we've got 3 kids, and they've all been in school the entire year with the exception of 3 days. There was like a little circuit breaker that came in, and it was like, just to be on the safe side. Overall, like it's just been kind of business as usual. We go out with a mask on, and we eat at restaurants, we meet up, hang out with our friends. We kind of coasted through this whole pandemic with mild inconvenience. The only problem we've had really is that we're on an island. So as much as like that's a good thing, it's also like we can't go anywhere. Right. There's nowhere to go, and you get a little stir crazy. So I can't wait to go places as soon as things open up again. Like, man, I'll be nervous to go to my first convention, frankly, but I'm sure we'll kind of just stick local before we start spreading out.
I imagine I haven't seen any word of decaf happening this year or what Cal's up to.
No, I think he'd be too cautious to like try and do that. Halifax had a big blow up recently, so don't be planning that sort of thing when it could all go wrong.
Well, that one's on my radar for when it does happen. I can't wait to come out there and table at decaf. That would be.
Oh, dude, what's your book, Jason? Pitch your book here for me.
It's called Group of 7.
Like the artist Group of 7? Like
it's like the artist Group of 7. So we just put out the 7th issue, but the first 6 were an action adventure story set in the First World War, featuring 7 famous Canadian historical figures on a secret adventure to save the world, including, and you'll know, John McCrae, Conn Smythe, Lester Pearson, Frederick Banting, Norman Bethune, A.Y. Jackson of the Group of 7, and famous sniper Francis Pegamagabo. And so we did 6 issues of that, put out a trade. We had a great time with it. It's a really good experience. And now on to the 7th issue, which is a new story set in the same world called Peregrines. And it's about 4 spies on the front lines of Europe. And they have like their undercover is that they're nurses for the Canadian forces. So they can move around, and they're high flying. They like jump out of a Zeppelin, and there's all sorts of fun stuff. But anyway,
so you got any Tom Thompson appearing in there or what?
Everyone asks me that all the time.
Of course.
About Tom Thompson. I won't say anything yet.
Okay. No spoilers. Next issue, Tom Thompson would be like, everybody freaking out.
It very well might be, but something we mentioned Tom Thompson, I think, in issue 4. Just a quick comment about his death, and because in our 6 issues, it like jumps around Canadian history, the 20th century. So sort of moments with featuring the characters that are in the story, but in their other parts of their lives. Like we have a scene in 1952 where Conn Smythe is at the Montreal Forum, and he goes in the dressing room of the Habs and sees the John McCrae quotation in the Habs dressing room. And it brings him back to his conflicts with McCrae on the team. Or we have a moment where in 1960s, like Lester Pearson is knee deep in the flag debate. And it brings him back to, like, he reads a letter from Conn Smythe in the 60s telling him, how dare you desecrate, like by changing the flag, you're desecrating everything we fought for in the First World War under a different flag. So it brings them back to their fight on the team as well. And then there's a scene with Frederick Banting and A.Y. Jackson painting together, which they truly did do in the 1920s. They painted together on the banks of the St. Lawrence, and they're talking about tom-toms and stuff. So there's lots of Canadian history, and then back and forth to the war. Anyway,
when I did our Angora Napkin book here, you haven't seen that. About halfway through the book, they have to go to Canada, and they're like, "God, no, not Canada!" And I just get to play with every Canadian stereotype possible. Like they have to go to a hockey game, and like the ghost of Stompin' Tom is like singing the good old hockey game. Is like the national anthem of Canada. Don Cherry's in it, screaming and red-faced, and they were climbing the CN Tower, throwing squid off everything. It's
for sure.
It was so much fun, just like kind of playing with the CanCon. And that was part of the cartoon I was talking to Craig about when we did the Oshawa comment, was like, can you add some more Canadian content into your thing? So we dug deep, and we had like French Canadian guy come up and start screaming about stuff, and they mentioned Oshawa, and we just jammed in all this CanCon that we could just to shoehorn it in.
It's super fun to play with too, because it's so provincial from an American or continental point of view. The Canadian culture stuff it's kind of quaint, and it doesn't really translate outside of the borders. Our buddy here, Rick Lopez, who was talking to you earlier, I sent him down some comics and included some Canadian Tire money.
Nice.
So you could see
it's our official currency, right?
Exactly. We consider him an honorary Canadian.
It smells like maple syrup when you scratch and sniff it.
Anyway, thanks for your time, and hopefully I run into you at the next con we're all at.
Absolutely, Jason. I look forward to seeing you.
Cheers, bud.
Cool. Yeah, the Angora Napkin stuff was fun. John Candy works the toll booth, the giant ice border between the US and Canada, right? With penguins on it, because why not?
Well, thanks so much, Troy. It's been an honor to have you here. I don't know if anyone else has any more questions. If not,
did we talk self-publishing? You mentioned that we were supposed to be talking self-publishing. I think
I did. I think we started about that, but I think we kind of evolved. That was just kind of the jumping off point,
All right. Well, I'll do a shameless pitch then, is because
let's do that.
Me and my wife, Brenda, we draw comics. She draws My Little Pony for about 6 years. She's working on the Gretzko graphic novel. You can check that out later this month. Very cool. See there? There you go. Little Ray of Sunshine, Gretzko. So she wrote, illustrated, and colored that book there. So if you watch the Netflix show, really fun. And a couple of years ago, she was getting a little burnout after 6 years of ponies, and I was getting a little bit like, after Fear and Loathing, I had an opportunity to do an adaptation of a few novels, 1984, which would have been amazing, and Vonnegut's Breakfast of Champions, which, again, I also love Vonnegut. It's one of my favorite novelists. And I did pitches for both of them. The state from Orwell never got back to us. There's just too many kind of legal hassles in there. And Vonnegut, 3 days from starting, I had signed the contract. I was ready to start. I had ready to go. This was my next year and a half, was be doing adapting Kurt Vonnegut's novel. Wow. 3 days before I started, they pulled the plug on it, and they decided to go elsewhere. And I mean, if you guys have seen Slaughterhouse-Five come out there with Ryan North and stuff, excellent. It's so good. It's so good. So you should pick it up. But anyway, I got pulled off Breakfast of Champions for whatever reason, and I was kind of left in the lurch for a while. We kind of decided, me and Brenda, then that doing our indie comics and stuff, me having my experience with IDW and Angora Napkin make me that no money, we would be better off kind of doing our own thing. And kind of seeing what people were doing with Kickstarters and Indiegogos and stuff like that, it was like, well, okay, there's a potential for, a little bit of independence with that, doing our own books. And both of us had been working on a project for about 7 years in our spare time, and we were almost done. So we decided, well, you're almost done first, Brenda. We'll go with you first. We'll run a Kickstarter, our very first one. And the idea being we would do these nice hardcover deluxe editions of our creator-owned work. And she was going to kick that off. And it worked. Halls of the Turnip King by Brenda Hickey. So we got a nice full color, Legend of Zelda, meets Looney Tunes, meets Lord of the Rings, kind of goofy, whatever, graphic novel. It's a one shot. This was like 7 years she was working on this, and at the same time I was working on this book. So we were almost done 2 books. We thought if we were ever to kind of like the idea of start our own little like publishing imprint, Pegamoose Press is what we decided to call it, then this was going to be it. We had 2 books ready to go. So we ran Brenda's the first year, did a Kickstarter for that with the entire idea that it's going to be print, it's going to be hardcover, and it's not going to be digital at all, which pissed off like 2 people. But we wanted our book to kind of be tangible. Just that's how we like reading books, is just in your hand, the physical copy, like it has a nice soft matte feet like texture to it. And so we thought if we can raise enough money to cover print costs, the book is done. Like just do that. And we did. We got really lucky on our first one out. And our second one out was just a little bit under what Brenda made, but still enough to cover our print run. And of course, all that happened during COVID. So we haven't had a single convention to try. We had one convention, to try and sell Brenda's book at, and she sold out everything she had. So I'm like, well, that's good, but it's also a year and a half ago now.
Right.
So that kind of sucks, but it got us started. And we came up with an idea on one of our trips that we were on, that we would collaborate on a project for our next book. It would be like an EP, an idea that I would do half and she would do half. And how would we do that? And how weird is it in a sense that there's 2 people who do comics professionally that are married, that are both writer artists who want to do basically everything from lettering to coloring and all that stuff. Like, we're a weird pair. And we came up with like this idea, this abstract kind of ghost story called Butterfly House. And we would just talk about it like when we were traveling to conventions or something. And one night we sat down and we like wrote it out. Here's what we're going to do, just on note cards. Here's what you'll do. Here's what I'll do. And we plotted it out. We're almost done that project now, and we'll be running that as a Kickstarter in September. And it's like a really weird experimental project for us both, where I mentioned before, I was working in animation a lot, and I feel I have that kind of chameleon kind of feel to me. Like I just adapt to whatever, if it's Rick and Morty or whatever, I just adapt to the Rick and Morty look. So for us, this was a bit of like, kind of like do something different. So we got these big sheets of watercolor paper, and we're using like weird quill, like weird pens, radiograph pens, and splashing ink washes down and doing things very, very differently and out of our comfort zone. Nice. And it turns out it worked really good. There's pages where like, it's a cool concept to us anyways, where the book is like written like this. So you read half of it is Brenda's, half of it is mine. It doesn't matter which side you start on. They both tell kind of a Mobius strip type story. And there's pages in there where I draw on her pages, and there's pages where she draws in the backgrounds of my pages. So just this really cool kind of collaboration that just kind of worked. And so like, we're both super psyched to like get this out to people to see it. And I think that's one of the biggest things we have to figure out now is how do you get beyond the handful of people that do follow you and know what you do to kind of like broaden your audience to see what this next cool thing is. So that's the next big challenge for us, is to figure that out.
Nice. Well, you took a good step here.
September.
You took a good step here, and hopefully you got maybe turned on a bunch of new people to your world.
I hope so. It's really neat seeing Brenda's pages and mine together and where they cross over, because they're like similar but different. Right. But the story narrative kind of works as like a story that happens in the future and the past, based around this kind of haunted house, how it got haunted and how it became haunted, or whatever. So beautiful. It'll be a very cool little art project for us, as like this oversized BD book, 60-page thing we're doing in the fall.
Can't wait to see that, man.
Can't wait to show you guys. It's cool.
Yes, dude. So where else can people find you? Where can we order Angora Napkin, Fear and Loathing stuff from you? Where can we
please feel free to order from us, because it's been dry for the last little while. We're at pegamoosepress.com is our website. So yeah, Pegamoose Press is where me and Brenda are at, and there's a link in there to our shop. You'll get books directly from us, so we'll sign, sketch, whatever you like in your books, no problem. Okay. And
I just put that in the chat there for everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All the other stuff we've done, like Rick and Morty, My Little Pony Gretzko, Fear and Loathing, Chiaroscuro, like it's been a lot of PowerPuff Girls. It's been so much cool projects. I've been so lucky. Like, comics has really been an absolute stupid move financially and the best move I've ever made. And trying to kind of lean into now the indie side of it and really do the stuff that we want to do. I'm working on a project now in our, Brenda and I also, because we're like that weird couple where we do everything comics all the time. That's all we talk about is comics. Yeah. We have a Patreon, Pegamoose Pals. And you know, you can become a Pegamoose Pal and get this neat little enamel pin and everything for $3. Basically buy us a coffee and then you get a pin and access to all the stuff we do. One of the things I'm doing right now is serializing the work in progress of my next graphic novel, which is called The Illusion of Life. And that's kind of this long running project I've had written. 10 years ago, I wrote this thing. And it's about an animation legend named Don Oswald, who's kind of like at the end of his rope, at the end of his life kind of thing, flashing back through his life to where he got to where he was. And kind of playing off what I learned with Butterfly House is a lot of ink washes, a lot of loose line, really very, very kind of out of my comfort zone stuff. And I think I got some stuff over here anyways. It's got animated bits to it. It's one of the coolest things I've probably done. And it's probably about 2 years away from anyone seeing it.
Wow.
So I'm just kind of serializing the black and white version and the work in progress version on Patreon for anyone who kind of follows that. Every time I finish a chapter, I upload a PDF free download for everybody. Nice. And I just finished page 49 today, so 4 chapters into it. So first 2 chapters are online, free downloads for anyone who helps support us. And that helps make the books happen. And also how it tries to build the hype a little bit of like what we're doing instead of just vanishing for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, anyone who wants to can kind of check out what we're up to. And Brenda's got stuff. Every week we update twice a week. When Tuesdays are me and Thursdays are Brenda. So there's always new stuff on there.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
So great. Troy, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you
for
everyone here for joining the Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Seats Comix Symposium. All right, cool. Thank you all so much again. And have a great day. Don't just make more comics, be more comics. That's my new slogan, guys. I'm pushing it hard.